Of course, the Green Party have other
I feel like we're having a lot of these social experiments going on right now. It's good to see this in England. I'm looking at like New York over here in America with Zimbani. I felt bad because I really not try to torture his name. I'm just kind of running into a brain fart. But to see how some of these policies would work in a current era, I don't think it's gonna work. But I think we're gonna find out. Yaps. It's in the name. I guess they're both English. Gosh bless. Do I like the English creators?
Today I'm going to talk about the Green Party. Why? Because their membership has surged to 140,000 and polls are putting them around 15%, level pegging with the Liberal Democrats and maybe 1 or 2 points behind Labour. So it's about time we had a discussion. And they're a strange old party, aren't they? Because their leader is a Jewish guy from Eastern Europe and their deputy leader screamed Allahu Akbar when he won his council seat.
We will raise the voice of Gaza. We will raise the voice of Palestine. Allahu Akbar.
Clearly they're a strange pair, but something is working. They are getting it done. People are being drawn to the Green Party. The proof of that is in the pudding. It's in those membership numbers. So what is it? What's drawing people towards them? What policies do they have? And that is a very interesting question. Let's take a look at some of the Green Party policies, and we'll start with one of the least controversial: decriminalising all drugs.
We know that the war on drugs has not worked. The state spends billions of pounds every year trying to get to grips with criminal activity of drugs gangs, of serious organised crime that goes into and supporting the drugs industry. Very clear that people have always and will always use drugs. Some of those drugs are currently illegal. Some of them are absolutely legal. We know that this is just a part of human society. What we are saying is that we shouldn't be putting the burden that currently exists on state infrastructure at the moment to tackle the drugs use issue like it is done through the war on drugs.
What's fascinating to me is that she says the war on drugs has failed, so we may as well just decriminalise them. And I'm sure if you're a midwit, that logic goes really hard. You look at that and you think, yeah, that totally makes sense, but it doesn't, does it? The logic itself is terrible. There are lots of people doing lots of bad things. That doesn't mean we should just decriminalise the bad things. I mean, you could argue that we've lost the war on sexual assault. Are we going to decriminalise sexual assault?
I think it's a more nuanced conversation. I am pro legalization of drugs and then providing centers to help people who go down the dark rabbit holes, right? But just provide better education. And at the end of the day, I think a lot of these stem from a poor educational foundation in these people's lives. But that's just
and I do understand, by the way, that there's a salient difference between someone who uses drugs and someone who commits a sexual assault, because the drug user is typically only harming themselves. I do get that, but the drug dealers are typically harming lots of people, right? And again, I just want to say, the point here is that the logic of saying the war on drugs has failed, so we should just give up on it, is awful. You could say the same about the war on terror. You have to give better reasoning than that. Now, does that mean I'm saying that there's no room to maneuver within our current drugs policy? No, not at all. Is there an argument to be had about legalizing marijuana and turning it into a regulated, taxable industry? I think there is. I mean, many American states have done exactly that. I think there's a discussion which could be had there, but talking about legalizing or decriminalizing heroin use, that's a different kettle of fish, isn't it? And look, the argument here is that you'll create safe spaces for people to do these drugs, and that way if they run into any trouble whilst they're doing it, medical assistance can be provided more quickly and it will save.
That's my take on it.
Save lives. I actually understand the arguments. Like, those kinds of arguments are not totally insane, but I just think there's a better way. None of these really...
Yeah, at the end of the day, I don't even know if my way is the correct way, right? Like, I don't think there's going to be one pathway that fixes all solutions, right? You're gonna fix some, but then other problems are always going to arise, and some may have never even gotten addressed. It's just which plan is going to be the most effective. Ultimately, it's not about being right or wrong. It's just about being effective.
Hard substances are produced in our country. So why aren't we just getting a grip of the problem of importation, of people bringing these things across the border? That's how you save lives. That's how you stop it. It can be done. It just requires the willpower and the financing to actually tackle it, to make a goddamn difference. That's the solution, I think. Anyway, like I said, that's the least insane idea that the Green Party have. Here's another fun one. They want to abolish landlords. Okay.
Hello, my darlings. My name's Alexander Salms, and I am the lead proposer of Abolish Landlords. Abolish Landlords is fundamentally about starting a green narrative on the housing crisis. No more of the YIMBY-NIMBY bullshit. Okay? We're going to be talking about wealth inequality.
No, but that, like, you have to provide a ladder for somebody to strive for. Like, owning real estate, owning ownership, becoming a I don't say a landlord, but owning property. That's, I think, we all seek that.
Who owns the housing? What kind of housing is built? Okay, who is getting the profits from this? We believe that we should be building council housing, a new generation of luxury council housing that everyone can enjoy. Okay, no more of this unaffordable landlord special, mold painted over crap that we've been dealing with. Rent's so unaffordable that they take more than half your pay packet. And this is just the start. The Green Party is on a new level now. We are talking about wealth inequality. We are talking about taking back what is ours, taking back what was privatized by Thatcher.
Listen, the private rental market is actually really important in the economy. If you move from one city to another to take up a new job, or for whatever reason, you probably want to be able to rent a property in that new city. You do that through the private rental market, and the people providing that service are landlords. Am I pretending that there aren't tons of landlords out there who are pretty terrible and abuse their tenants? No, I'm not. We know that that's true, but the way to fix that isn't simply abolishing landlords. And then the Green Party have this idea, well, the state is going to build all of this luxury council housing, and they're going to rent it out to people at low, low prices.
Nope, they're just going to give it to the illegal immigrants.
Okay, feels like a bit of a sort of communist, socialist, utopian dream, right? The state can definitely do this really efficiently. Everyone's going to have cheap housing, and it's going to be fantastic. Look, I don't think the British government or the state can produce anything luxury at all. And usually when we try to build something, it costs an absolute fortune and takes forever. But putting all of that aside, I don't have a problem in principle with the idea of building more council housing. I don't have a problem with that, but why do you have to abolish landlords to achieve that? If you think, truly, as the Greens, that you can build all of this luxury council housing and rent it out for these low prices, do it. You will then be competing against those private landlords, but guess what? You're providing luxury cheaper. So why would anyone go to the private landlords? They'll have to lower their prices. So there's no reason whatsoever to go on this abolish landlords tirade. We're going to do it all ourselves, right? You don't know that you can do it all yourselves. Why don't you just try and compete against the private landlord market if that's what you want to do? Here's a strange one.
Because they know they can't win.
For you. Zach Polanski backs Scottish and Welsh independence. Now, I didn't see him say it anywhere, but I presume he backs Northern Irish independence as well, because it would be strange to support Wales and Scotland, but not Northern Ireland. So effectively what we're talking about here is the breakup of the United Kingdom. The United Kingdom would no longer be a thing. And I'm going to be honest, I think that would be a terrible decision for Wales and Scotland. If you look at the Barnett formula,
Agreed.
We are sending from England, we are basically subsidising Wales and Scotland. And part of that is because we've got London in England, right? But I don't think it would be good for Wales and Scotland, but ultimately...
That's the only reason.
It's their decision. I'm a nationalist, and I think that the people who are of a country should be able to determine its future. So if the Scottish really, truly want independence, I'm inclined to say they should have another referendum. That's not going to win me any favours with my audience, I'm sure. Do I want to see them go? No. Would I make the argument against it? Yes, but I do think that they should be able to decide. That doesn't mean you get a referendum every year, but at some point, they're probably going to have to be given that choice again if they keep voting for the SNP and whatever else. Now, at the same time, you have to ask, why is Zach Polanski doing this? I think he's trying to do some clever politicking here. I don't think he actually believes that the union should be broken up. I could be wrong. I think what he's trying to do is convince people in Scotland and Wales who want independence to vote for the Greens, because people in Scotland have been voting for the SNP.
Yeah.
time and time again. But the SNP, even when they win almost every seat in Scotland, can't convince Westminster to give them another referendum. However, if the Greens came into power, partially thanks to winning lots of seats in Scotland, well then Westminster would already be convinced, right? The Green Party have said they'll give you another referendum. So I think what he's trying to do is appeal to those voters in Scotland and Wales who want independence and trying to pick up a few extra seats in those countries. Will it work? I don't know. Time will tell. Of course the Green Party have other
I feel like we're having a lot of these social experiments going on right now. It's good to see this in England. I'm looking at like New York over here in America with Zimbani. I felt bad because I really not trying to torture his name. I'm just kind of running into a brain fart. But to see how some of these policies would work in a current era. I don't think it's going to work, but I think we're going to find out.
Policies that I haven't spoken about in this video. They're big advocates for
whether you want it to or not.
Open borders, which is kind of mental. I mean, it doesn't work. We've had open borders. 1 in 20 people currently in the UK arrived here in the last 4 years or 5 years now. So look, it just doesn't work. We know it doesn't work. It's terrible. It's ruining the country. The Green Party want open borders. Fantastic. Of course they do. They also want a wealth tax. Again, terrible idea. If you're worth £100 million living in this country, why would you give the British state 2% of that, £2 million every year for the foreseeable future? I mean, you just wouldn't, right? It's just crazy. You would just leave. Of course you would. You just go to greener pastures because in 5 years, that's 10% of your wealth. Anyone who's wealthy and thinks about wealth will know that there's no reason to stay in the UK if you're going to be taxed like that. So then you'll lose their
Look at California.
Capital gains tax. You'll lose the VAT on the Lamborghinis that they buy and whatever else. Again, not a good tax idea, not a good idea at all. That's what the Green Party want to do. So there's loads of terrible ideas they've got. I really struggle. I've tried to be fair in this video, okay, especially when it comes to talking about, like the decriminalisation of drugs. I've tried to look at things from their perspective, but honestly, the vast majority of these ideas are just crap. Like, they're just insane. They're like really radically left-wing student union politicking. It's just terrible, and it wouldn't work. It will absolutely hasten the destruction of this country. Speaking of which, I don't think the Green Party are going to get into power, certainly not without any kind of coalition. And if they did, I would leave. Like, that would be the final straw for me, because
they're growing in power. So they might not win the election this time. They may not win the next one. But they can consistently continue to grow. It's only a matter of time.
Within 6 months, this country would simply collapse, okay? They don't understand how to govern, they don't understand money, they don't understand gilts and yields and government borrowing and printing money. They don't understand the effects that these things would have. And so nobody would lend money to the UK anymore. The yields would rise. Paying back the debt would become completely unaffordable. They would try and pump up taxes. Everyone would become unemployed because why work when you're trying to give 60, 70, 80% to Zach Polanski?
True.
It's just not going to work, is it? The state would effectively just collapse. Now, some people have argued, I see them arguing it all the time, that maybe that's what we need. We need the British state to collapse before we can actually start fixing things. There might be some truth to that, okay? Does that mean I'm going to vote for the Green Party? No. I would genuinely just get out of the country at that point. It's funny because the things that they love and
what a nice, little walking path. Can I just make a comment of this? Like, this guy looks like he's walking in, Hobbit territory. It's beautiful.
cherish, the NHS, the welfare state, pensions, all of that would just disappear because they don't know how to run the country. They don't understand money or the economy or taxation. They don't know how these things work, and they would destroy the things that they love about this socialist utopia. It would all just evaporate. Anyway, food for thought. Look, I'm going to leave it there. It's probably a long, sort of slightly rambling video. Been ill the last few days. We've had a bit of stormy weather coming through. Bit nicer today, not too bad.
Well, the stormy weather has come to my area because it's looking like it's going to rain here soon. But let's go read some of these comments. They're surging because Islamists and commies from labor are jumping ship. The more split the left are, the better. Greens are divorced from reality. Seemingly so. The Greens seem like the left over here now. What is drawing people to the Green Party? Mental illness. This is what I fear. That this country is truly on the edge. Prepare yourselves for good people of the UK, Greater Britain area. Just insane.